Hi, I would like to introduce myself as a mentor for this mentorship program. I'm Marcia Weese. I live in Carbondale, and I was trained as a sculptor years ago and a painter, but I found printmaking many years ago, and I particularly am attracted to monoprints and woodblock prints and solar etchings. So I was very fortunate to become a mentor this, what season are we in? This winter, spring, I guess it was. And this is a wonderful opportunity for high school students to work with professional artists and end up having a show at the art base. And you can see here I was paired with Sage Kaufman. And Sage?
Yes, I'm Sage Kaufman, and I'm the mentee for this program. I go to Glenwood Spring High School, and I'm a sophomore. And I've just always loved creating things since I was little. And so this mentorship just seemed like a really incredible learning opportunity to challenge myself and explore art a little bit more.
Great. So, what the process that you and I went through? I decided that really we should meet in my studio because I wanted to teach you mokuhanga, which is woodblock technique, and it seemed like the easiest thing to do would be to work in my studio where I had all the materials. So we're supposed to work one hour a week. Well, no, we ended up working a lot more than that because we got started and then it flew by and there was no way we could do this in an hour a week. So you were very flexible and allowed, yourself to come in and work. Really, sometimes it was 2 or 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And then you built up this body of work. So tell me about how we got started.
So we got started kind of just talking about what was interesting to me, and we both kind of have a passion for nature and wanted to incorporate that into the work. So I started this journal, just like going out and looking in nature to figure out what was captivating to me and what I wanted to focus on.
Oh, can you open a page or two?
Here's, I think this one's Marcia's favorite. This aspen tree one. Here's another tree. Yeah, they were all watercolor, just like really loose kind of sketches that I saw while out in nature. And it really helped me just like play around with watercolor, but also like figure out what I wanted to focus on mainly.
So we did have this shared sort of deep reverence for nature, and I immediately saw when you showed me some of your work that you know how to draw, and so your draftsmanship for me was very exciting because I knew that whatever you were going to develop, you had this facility for drawing. And you showed me, it was interesting, you showed me 3 watercolors at the very beginning, and they looked like they could have been painted with acrylic. So the first thing I wanted to do was to teach you this wet on wet technique. So can you talk a little bit about?
Yeah. So right away, Marcia taught me it's like just way looser than how I had been painting. So you use a lot of water and put down a lot of water and then like drop the pigment in. I'm trying to find. Yeah, like this, like the colors kind of blend together. And so I learned lots of techniques with like building shapes and using the wet on wet to make the colors look how I wanted.
So I also I asked you about printmaking, and you were very interested in this woodblock mokuhanga, which is a Japanese ancient technique from, 2,000 years ago, perhaps. And I'm always from the 17th century. So I'm always, don't do the math. Or do the math. But I'm always so thrilled when someone wants to learn this ancient technique because we're carrying it forward.
Yeah.
And it's something you can do in the studio because you're using watercolor and you are hand printing. You don't need a printing press. You're hand printing with a Buren. And so then there was this wet on wet watercolor idea, technique, and the mokuhanga. And then there was a third technique, which you can
We
talk
did
about.
sumi nagashi paper marbling. So you have like, it's like these ones, that one, where you like have a tub of water and you drop the ink into it. And you have like very little control, but it always comes out looking really interesting. And then you just drop a really thin piece of rice paper on top to pick up the ink and pull it off, and it's like really beautiful and loose and marbled.
So this particular technique is also ancient from Japan, and the artists would marble the rice paper and then write haikus on top. So everything was related to rice paper or paper, and there were 3 different techniques we were working with, right?
Yeah.
So then I directed her toward creating a format, a size that we didn't, that she stuck with, so that we could create this grid of really the things that you've learned over this 3 or 4 months period. And so these techniques are all mixed up, and maybe you want to talk a little bit about your haikus, your calligraphy?
Yeah, like during quarantine, I like really loved learning how to write calligraphy, just to, I don't know, have something to do. But it really worked well with this sumi nagashi marbling because the dark ink really stands out. And I kind of just found haikus I liked online or like quotes that I knew of, and sometimes I put little doodles with them so that it kind of like connected to the theme of the project more.
And in fact, in terms of the theme, nature is a very large subject, and so we talked about picking 3, focusing on 3 elements, which were?
We had Mount Sopris, the moon, and an aspen tree.
Right, so it was moon, mountain, tree, and which also related to the haiku idea. And I think I was so impressed with how you responded within this pretty complex. There was a big learning curve, 3 completely different new techniques. Focusing on these elements of nature and then producing this work which holds together so beautifully.
Thank you.
So what do you think was your biggest strength and your most difficult? What was the thing that came the easiest to you, and what was the most difficult in this whole process?
I would say I was open to learn throughout the process, and I think that made it like a really good like teamwork effort because I could take what Marcia had to teach me, and I think that I really worked to understand the techniques. But they were definitely like the little pieces of the techniques were challenging, and not getting frustrated with like the watercolor at first, and like trying to like let go of some of the control and let it happen naturally.
Yeah, that's so what did you learn?
Oh, I learned so much. Like even without, I learned all the techniques, and now I love watercolor painting, and I used to kind of like, it would just really frustrate me. Marcia really allowed me to experiment and make mistakes, and kind of like accepted the mistakes, and a lot of things that I hated, Marcia was like, oh, but what if you like change it a little bit? And then I ended up really liking it. So it was just like a really judgment-free environment where I really got to experiment, and I think that was really important. And now I look at my art totally different, and I'm less hard on myself and kind of just make for the process.
Man, that is a huge lesson. That's a huge life lesson.
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, we are, we have to stand up for our work. I mean, who else will, right?
Yeah.
So that's a wonderful, I'm very glad to hear that. And then at opening, how many pieces did you sell?
4?
7.
7?
I see 7 red dots, and you got 2 commissions.
Yes.
So you get to come back to my studio and work on these woodblock commissions. So I couldn't be more pleased. It was a wonderful experience working with you.
It was working with you
I
too.
hope this gives you inspiration to continue on.
For sure.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.